sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UPNradio.com.
One of them wanted to be the security guy. He claimed he was a security guy.
Welcome to Security Guy Radio. What's your name, sir?
My name is Scott Barker. I'm the general manager of 3R Technology based here in Seattle.
And what is in Seattle again? There's all kinds of people based in Seattle. That's fabulous. What does 3R Technology do?
3R Technology is mostly a recycler, but we specialize in remarketing of retired IT assets.
Retired IT assets?
Yes.
People come up with new phrases all the time. I love the way that sounds. Was there another way to say it? An old hard drive? Is that another way to say it?
Well, yes, or an older model server, or networking equipment, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, because a router. I didn't think that a router would need to be.
If you think about it, the large companies tend to have the biggest, best, brightest all the time of everything. But a smaller company, if they want to save a little money and don't need absolutely the nth degree piece of technology, they can buy it for 10 to 15% of what it originally costs, and
that's what you mean by
all
recycling.
Kinds of money.
Oh,
yes.
I'm thinking recycling in the blue bin, but you're talking about repurposing.
Absolutely.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't think about that.
Absolutely,
that's a whole new industry, kind of, right?
Yes, and it really is important. It's very important to us because not only does it help our clients save a tremendous amount of money, but it also allows them to. It also allows us to keep IT out of the or put it back into the stream without having to actually melt it all down and rebuild it.
Yeah.
So it saves a lot of energy that way as well.
So we're talking about hard drives, we're talking about routers, we're talking about anything that's a piece of hardware now.
Absolutely, and one of our specialties, which is rather funny to me, is we sell a tremendous amount of server racks. So, I mean, what is going to go wrong with a server rack? But people trade them out for different ones,
right?
And we pick those up and are able to repurpose them. And so instead of spending $4,000 or $5,000 for a rack from a company new, you can spend $200 and have basically the same thing, except it's 4 years old.
They're very expensive. When I was at Fox and Disney, and I work with purchasing a lot on things because we had to keep track of our assets, right? And boy, when Rona had to go get a rack for the broadcast center, I mean, it's just a box of square. It's like what is it? An erector set. I mean, it's nothing fancy, right?
Right. It's
only
basically a
people
big
that make
piece
them.
of steel.
Yeah, only people that make them. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we do a tremendous amount with that. We also do a lot of audiovisual things. Our clients are mostly individuals rather than companies.
That's interesting.
As far as the repurposing.
So you're not necessarily doing Microsoft. You could, but I mean, really, it's the middle business or smaller business guy.
Absolutely.
Now, is this a service where this big, beautiful green machine we're looking at comes to you? Is that the idea?
It can. So we have a couple of different things with our hard drive shredding. We can pick up hard drives, and we can just wipe them using a binary 3-pass wipe,
right?
Or we can pick them up from a company and shred them if they prefer that, or we can take the system on. And one of the reasons that we decided on a shredder at this size rather than a larger one is this allows us to put it on our truck to take it wherever we need. We've gone into data centers, and if we go into a hospital that has HIPAA compliance, they actually cannot allow the hard drives to leave their building.
Sure, makes sense.
They have to actually be
Which
shredded on
is
site.
odd to me because I don't really care if I have appendicitis. I really don't care. I do care if you get my bank account info off the other hard drive that's not under HIPAA compliance, right?
That's true.
It's kind of
That's
weird.
True. Yeah.
Weird.
Well, and I always figure the biggest part for me for HIPAA compliance is there happens. It's important that whether we know that you had an appendectomy or not, but your Social Security card number is on that, and that's much more important.
Well, that's true too. I mean, and that's another thing with personally identifiable information. In California, where I come from, those laws are super duper strict, right? And it used to be that, businesses as routine use your Social Security number as your ID number. And I used to say, no, you can't do that. Oh, yeah, what's the problem? We're going to use a variant of your Social Security. Can't do that either, right? So this data management and destruction is very, very important. I remember the biggest problem we had at Fox was people stealing videotapes, because if they stole the videotape, then they could make a copy of it and sell it in the alley right down the street. Now it's all digital. It's even more difficult, really. It's a bigger challenge.
Well, and now if they pirate something from someone like Fox, they don't sell it down the street. They sell it on the internet.
It's on the internet. Yeah. And we used to go down in the Santee Alley in L.A. and we would, find people selling a videotape that looked like it was new, but guess what? That movie's not in the theaters yet, dude. So you can't really be selling it, So who are some of your clients? I mean, not by names, but I mean just kind of industry-wise. Who's using it?
So industry-wise, we have a lot of healthcare. We do have a lot of higher-end security companies, and but really our bread and butter is kind of the small companies that just want to make sure that their information is handled correctly. We do carry an R2 certification, which basically, as part of that certification, we have to prove that once something gets to our hands, it will be handled in a proper manner.
Well, that's good, but I'm skeptical, right? So I did not like Iron Mountain coming by and picking up my paper and taking it somewhere and telling me they're shredding it, right? Because you got the human factor. I mean, you got a bad employee, stuff happens, right? How do you overcome a reluctance from a client to say, just drop your hard drive off at the shop here, we'll take care of it, or we'll pick it up and take care of it? I like to have you come out with this machine and say, let me see it go in there and be done.
Absolutely.
It's got to be some reluctance there, right?
And that really is why we decided to go, when we did purchase the shredder, that's why we decided to go with one that was portable.
Because you're getting feedback from people saying, I want to see it.
Absolutely. The other thing that we will occasionally do, and we have done this a few times, and that is we will, if the client is reluctant to have the machine come on site, we will take bins that lock, that we have basically a numbered lock. We will put the hard drives in it. We will tie the locks, and then when we get back to our shop, we will actually take a video of ourselves cutting the lock and putting the hard drives into the shredder.
I like that. And that covers you.
Absolutely.
Now let's break this down into two things. We talked about it briefly. You have destruction. I'm not going to call that recycling because that's not what you're saying.
That's correct.
So destruction, shredding, getting rid of it, that's one thing. And then the recycling part. What do you guys recommend for recycling? I think hard drives are so inexpensive. I just feel more comfortable you just shred it and I buy a new one. I mean,
absolutely.
Or do people say, listen, dude, I don't have anything expensive on there. No secrets, gross stuff. But if you want to send it to some underprivileged computer somewhere and recycle it, that's okay with me. Then you are going to wipe it to DoD standards?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And as part of our certification, not only do we wipe the drives, but we also have 5 times a year, 4 times internal and 1 time external. We do an audit of hard drives. We pull a random hard drive off of the shelf that has been wiped.
Yeah.
Once we wipe them, we put a label on them, as you can see, and we will just take a random drive out of somewhere in our system and pull it out, check to see if we
fire
can
it up,
check to see if we can access anything 4 times a year, and then once a year we take 5 drives. We send them out to an external auditor.
Well, that's a good idea.
They take these 5 drives. They put a file on one of them at the root level. They give us the 5 back. We don't know which drive it's on, of course. we wipe the drives again, and then we send them back to the auditor, and they try to access that drive.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And if they are able to access that drive, then we know something is wrong in our process. Now, it has now been, we've done this 4 times, and yet they have yet to be able to access any files. So
all right, that's good.
So we know that our system, it works.
Yeah. Who's your market for these hard drives? I mean, do you resell them? Is that your another part of your business?
Absolutely. Yes, we do resell them. Most of our market for hard drives are individuals who are looking for a new drive, small companies who are needing extra drives, or they purchase a server and they decide that they need to have the 8 drives to fill it up. We do also do some wholesaling of drives to various companies around the country.
I may have gotten one once, but
that?
I know it wasn't from you.
Yeah.
I got a horror story, right?
Oh, yes.
So I go to Staples years ago, and I buy that $2,000 computer. I always buy a $2,000 computer, and it always lasts me 6-7 years, right? Because you get the high-end stuff,
Absolutely.
Right? And I get there, and I'm doing all the things I do. I strip out all the crap that I don't like to look at, and I don't know. And all of a sudden I start seeing these files, and I'm going, what? These aren't my files. What the heck's going on here? I go back to them, and they go, oh, well, I'm not sure how that happened, blah, blah, blah. So either they sold the computer, somebody brought it back, and they didn't wipe it, right? Or I'm thinking they bought, not your company, but an unscrupulous used hard drive somewhere, because it's cheaper for them to manufacture a computer that way if they're buying discounted hard drives, I guess.
Absolutely.
Are you seeing this in the industry? Are industries doing this?
We have seen this, and actually,
I'm not picking on Staples, by the way, because they didn't
Yeah.
make the computer. I forgot
That's
what
true.
brand it was, but you know what I'm saying?
And we have seen that, and actually. Probably your first idea was the correct one. They probably sold the computer. It was returned, because I know because that is much more likely.
Okay.
Large companies tend to start with new hard drives. They don't.
I would
they don't
think
tend
so.
To, yeah, they don't tend to start with used hard drives. But I know that if we sell a computer and it's returned, it's returned the next day, they decided that they didn't want this. They wanted something different. The first thing that we do is we pull out the hard drive and wipe it, and they can tell us until they're blue in the face, I didn't even turn it on. But as soon as it leaves our building, we have to assume that somebody put something on it.
You have to, right.
We will wipe it off and start again.
Yeah. Now, do you do this for, let me get my terminology correct. There's a SATA drive, and there's a solid-state digital drive,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then these are the HDDs or H?
HDD drives. So no, these are probably SATA drives, or they might be IDE, which are the older style. We also deal with SAS drives.
Now, solid states are different. You because it's a circuit board in essence, right?
Yeah. Solid states are much different because there's no moving parts, we do deal with all different types of drives.
Okay.
The one thing that we are not able to do, just because of the way that they are structured, is we are not able to wipe fiber optic drives, which several companies deal with.
Right.
And so when we get a fiber drive, it's immediately shredded. The other thing that we also do, if a drive comes to us and is not able to be wiped, basically if we put it on our wiping system and it fails,
right,
then immediately it's shredded. So basically there are 2 options. So at that point we know that the hard drive has failed. There's no way to access things on it, except yes, there is, and so we immediately shred it. So anything that walks through our door has to be either wiped or shredded. Those are the 2 options.
It's funny you should say yes, there are, because I had a computer in '84. It's my first computer, and they were 2 floppy drives, by the way. When there was no hard drives, all right.
Absolutely.
And then a hard drive came out, and I bought it for $1,200, and it was 25 megabytes. Oh my God, I can save 25 disks. And I went to the bank and financed it for $1,200, right? Because I didn't make any money as a cop. And the technology's just gone so far forward. So my buddy, who's on the radio show, Paul, and he used to be with the Scotland Yard and did the Queen Mom detail, and knows all the secret squirrel MI5, 6 stuff that goes on over there. He said their policy used to be that they would take a hard drive, and this is back in the early 80s when it was all just kind of starting out, right? And they would shred it, and by shredding they meant small little particles, right? And they'd put it in a bag, and they lock it in a vault, and they keep it for 50 years. And I go, what are they keeping it for 50 years? You can't put a hard drive together. after it's shredded, and they go, you can't now, right? But in 50 years, you probably can. And that's very interesting foresight.
Absolutely.
And my question to you is, it seems like 3R Technology and other people around here are getting that and trying to keep ahead of it, because the technology goes up. What are we going to do when we get biological hard drives? Because that's coming. Right?
Absolutely.
Because that thing can only spin so fast and then it melts.
That's true.
So you got to do something else. So I'm glad to see that there's companies that are taking lead on this and not just assuming, I push Control Delete, it's all good. And the average person thinks that, right?
Yes.
And pushing Control Alt Delete or formatting a hard drive is actually better for me when I do forensics, because it puts all those files in one little place on the hard drive that I can go find. So you really have to do this, even if you're an average person. You throw that hard drive in the trash. First of all, in California, you're going to get in big trouble for it. And second, your data's going to get recovered. It's just going to happen.
Absolutely.
It's not too hard to do.
Absolutely. And then, so the other part of it for us is once we shred it, then we send it to a downstream processor, and what they do with it.
New word, downstream processor, defined for my nieces and nephews.
Downstream processor. So we
Well, this is Seattle. You have a lot of salmon and things up there. That's what I'm thinking about.
So basically, we mostly collect things and put them together by different types of things. We don't do a lot of processing, which is basically breaking it all the way down into its component parts. And breaking it down into commodities at that point.
So you're saying you could sell different components of a hard drive, not just the hard drive itself?
Actually, if we took a look at this hard drive, if we wanted to do this to sell to our downstream processor, we could take the drive itself, we could pull the board off of it, and we could sell the board separately.
Yeah, you put that up a little closer. We can take a look.
Absolutely.
So that little green board.
Yeah, we could take the circuit board off of it and sell that separately, and then the platter inside, because of course this is made up of a variety of different things.
Right.
What we do instead is we shred them down, we send them to a downstream processor. They melt them down into, and basically their system has the ability to actually pull the components apart, and so they end up with just metal and gold and platinum and all of the different,
just like
different things.
The newspapers, aluminum cans, and plastic bottles. Same kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, how interesting.
And the surprising part of it for us is in the case of circuit boards, in the case of the green boards, whether it's on a hard drive or whether it's out of a computer or things like that, there's about 2 or 3 large companies in the world where all of this stuff goes.
Oh,
because they have the system that will actually melt it all the way down into its components and extract pure gold and extract pure platinum and all the other.
I never thought about it that way. And if you take 1 billion hard drives, that's a lot of gold and platinum.
Absolutely.
Now, do they pay? Do they buy those from you, the downstream people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I say absolutely, but it depends on what it is. Some of the things they purchase from us, some of the things we actually have to pay them to get rid of because of what the process is.
And the law and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the biggest thing as far as costing, and the biggest challenge in our industry is CRT glass, because it's glass that has lead in it.
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah.
Week after week after week, you hear about companies that basically go out of business because they have a huge amount of CRT glass that they have to pay to get rid of, and they don't have enough money to pay, and so they just walk away.
Now, do we find CRT glass in things like those new phone screens or protectors?
No,
that's not, because there are some glass screens.
Yeah, pretty much now it's limited to the old CRT, both televisions and monitors.
Okay.
And so the amount of CRT glass is going down very fast,
exponentially.
Yeah, because a lot of the basically CRT monitors are going away and are gone, and CRT televisions you basically can't buy them anymore.
Right.
And so it's all now about who has what in their closet or are still watching it in the case of a television or something like that. So and so the more that goes away, the less problem there is. Now, other parts of the world, that's not it continues to be a problem,
Right.
because those are significantly less expensive than the flat panels, and so third world countries, you will find CRT monitors and CRT TVs all over the place because they're cheap to get.
Yeah.
And so that's something that you have to be very careful with.
Now, is that something you guys would recycle for somebody?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
So
basically, any electronic components, you might be able to handle it. Some way.
One of our former employees used to say, if it plugs into the wall, we'll recycle it.
Well, I'm glad to see this is a viable business, right? Because there's exponential growth in all those things. And I think I read something, one of these futuristic guys says by 2025, every single human on the planet will have a smartphone. Literally. And then there'll be singularity and connectivity to everybody in the world in some way, right? And that's just a lot of junk. It's a lot of hardware. It's a lot of pieces. It's a lot of stuff. And then, you know what? If 6, 7, 8 billion people want to get a new phone next year, what are you doing with the other 8 billion phones that you just used? I mean, that's a lot of stuff.
It is. It's tremendous. It's a tremendous amount. When I first got into this industry,
How long have you guys been in business, by the way? I forgot to ask.
Our company has been around since 2001.
Oh, that's pretty old in this business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We focused originally more on repair and things like that, and then we kind of moved into the recycling side. And since 2005, that's basically been our only process. And I was doing some reading the other day and was reading about how much e-waste there is being produced all of the time. And when I first got into this industry, I thought, okay, this isn't a huge industry. And then I started thinking about, you think about a small company. Let's say you have a company of 500 people. So those 500 people have a PC on their desk. Maybe they have a laptop as well. They have a monitor. They have a printer. And they have networking things. And then you have copiers and things like that. And you still have then all the peripherals that all the server side and things like that go with it. And most companies at this point will completely turn over all of their technology every 3 years.
Oh, it's 3 years now.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
that's
rapid.
So think about how much. So this company of 500 people, which is not a huge company,
right?
Think of how much technology is coming out of this one company every 3 years, and usually what they'll do is they'll separate it a third, and so every year about 175 of these desks of these people positions are getting a new copier, a new printer, a new monitor, or 2 monitors. That's the big thing now. A new PC, a new phone.
I think I get a new phone every year because A, I break it, or B, I say I like the bling bling over that new phone, right?
Absolutely.
And what I do is I send that phone down through my family, right? So somebody in the family still has an old Motorola slide flip phone or something, that's about 6 years old, but they still use it, right?
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
yeah, that's an issue. So you want to shred something for us?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, is shred the right word? When I think of shred, I think of paper and fine little particles, but not really. That's not particle level, right?
No, this is not particle level. Actually, what it ends up looking like after it's shredded is it ends up looking like this, and so it's,
and those are the things you're going to ship out to pull the components out of.
That's correct.
Oh, interesting.
That's correct. So this is actually a very easy machine. We just drop the hard drive in it.
That's very easy.
And it shreds it into its component parts. I don't know if you want to try to bring the camera over. You can actually look directly down.
Oh, here, let's do that.
Let me see if
I can do that.
Are you ready?
Yeah, it might be. I can see it. Yeah, go ahead.
The nice thing about this machine is we can also use it for what we call hard media, which is like hard drives, DVDs, or DVDs and CDs. We can also use it for soft media, basically floppy disks. Although you don't find many floppy disks anymore, but
I still have some.
I still have some. But
that's my tin can of wire, just in case all this other stuff fails. I still got something to work.
Especially backup tapes, because people
still use tapes.
They still use tapes, and there's still a lot of transitioning off of tapes and onto hard drives.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I go to ASIS, which is the American Society of Industrial Security Convention. There's 20,000 people show up, 3,000 vendors, right? And one of the big things that happens is that there's all these people with digital cameras, right? They have 4K, amazing stuff. This is all broadcast quality for $300.
Absolutely.
Just one of the guys that heads of Tyco told me that I think it was 2014 is the first year that digital outsold analog. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So that brought to mind when you said, "Oh, people are still transitioning." And I go, "Really? Who would be? They still are."
Absolutely.
Why don't you have a $300 digital camera instead of your $700 analog? But a lot of that stuff's still out there. In other words, they're still selling it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually have my uncle is actually a professional photographer, and and about 90% of what he does is of course on digital now. However, he still has 3 of his Olympus OM1s, and every once in a while he will do a thing that he takes his Olympus OM1 out. He actually lives in Alaska, and when he does a cold shoot, what he calls a cold shoot, so during the winter, if he's going to be outside and things like that, so I mean it might be 30, 40, 50 below, because he lives in Fairbanks. He will use his OM1 because he said no camera that he's ever had will handle the cold like his OM1.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I'm a little concerned that we're going to go all digital and lose some ability to have a backup for it, so to speak, right? In other words, a tin can and a wire, I think you need to have still. I mean,
absolutely. Well, think about what happened in the recording industry. Everything went to CDs and now what's the big popular thing?
Yeah, it's MP3.
But even more so, the big popular thing now is records.
Oh no, you're right.
It's
my
like,
kids are record nuts.
Absolutely, because there is a specific sound that you cannot get on a digital.
You can't even replicate.
World.
Some people try to replicate that digitally. It's not.
It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
And it's nothing like listening to the Beatles' original album on like a Moran's turntable and a Phillips needle, and there's just a different sound to it. It's not stereo, by the way, right?
Yeah.
It was that weird mono, whatever they called it back then. And it's just a much better sound.
Absolutely. And so I think at some point we are gonna reach the point that basically everything is going to be digital, but people are going to start realizing that there is a reason for some of this analog thing, and then it's going to make a comeback, just like it did in recording.
So there's a theory, and I can't remember the name of it, but it basically says this: eventually, that hard drive is only going to spin so fast. Eventually, the speed of light's not good enough. In other words, if we reach the top of our ability, the technology, and you just can't go there because of physical limitations any further, what happens? One theory is, well, we just stay at that point and we just work it out. No. The world and people and humanity and everything has always gone up, right? What happens when you can't go up anymore? It's an interesting question.
Yes.
Some people think you slide back into chaos in the Dark Ages. I don't know. What do you mean it doesn't go any faster? I have to make it go faster. Now I have to scrap my project because my project I had won't work. Because everything on technology is based on the premise that I'm going to make it better next week. And if you get to a physical limitation point, that's why I look into bio hard drives and things like that.
Absolutely.
Hardwiring your brain, because nothing's faster than your brain.
Right. Right.
So I don't want you shredded any brains in the future, but I'm just saying that's
Trust me, I don't think we will.
So what kind of growth rate do you guys have on this kind of stuff?
We have just been progressively year over year getting bigger and bigger and bigger, collecting more and more things from our clients. We will process, a couple of million pounds of
a million pounds. Okay,
a couple million pounds.
Can you give me a number of how many hard drives that is? That's a lot of hard drives. That
would be a lot. That would be a lot of hard drives. So
hard drives are not even a pound. Hard drives.
No, it's a little. They actually average about 1.3 pounds.
Oh, okay.
Because some are smaller.
Yeah.
Some are less, of course, and some are more. But so that's a tremendous amount of hard drives. But it's. We will process that through our system. Then a percentage of that will go to our downstream processors. A percentage of that will go to our refurbishment department and be refurbished and then resold. And a percentage of that basically is already in good working shape. All we need to do is clean it up and resell it.
And by the way, you're located in Seattle. Are we talking 1 million pounds of stuff in Seattle only?
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, so you're not coming to Los Angeles?
No,
no,
not at all. No,
that's amazing.
So,
when you open up a franchise branch, I'll be interested in that. Kind of like got junk trucks that drive around,
Right, absolutely. Like it's interesting, and we obviously in Seattle have a lot of competition. But because this is a huge tech area.
Wow.
And but we.
What's your market share? Do you know?
I don't.
There can't be a lot of guys like you doing this.
There are actually more than you think.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that continues to show just how much the volume.
I'm getting out of radio. I'm going to get into this. I think this is good. Scott, thanks for coming on Security Guy. We got to cut it at 30.
Okay.
But if you're ever around LA, look me up and or Skype in if you got some latest stuff going on, and let's do another show. Thanks for coming on Security Guy Radio.
Thank you so much for letting me talk.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.